I want you to change the world, and don't think that this is going to happen peacefully or you can do it alone. We need to kill the rich, okay? We need to get out there, use your weapons, and rip Washington apart.
Good morning, everyone. It's April 19th, 2018. I'm Eric. How's everyone doing? My allergies are kicking my ass today. Alright, so, the Syrian conflict is a distraction from a secret war. I have two for you today. Road to 2025, prepare for a multipolar world, and some headlines here on the Free Thought Project. Saudi Arabia exposed as secret hand behind ongoing Syrian regime change operation. Nothing surprising about that, right? I mean, they are the ones responsible for financing a lot of these groups. They are in part responsible for 9/11, along with Israel and the foreign or globalist agents embedded in our government. I guess that sounds a little less crazy than how Alex Jones says it, but that's pretty much what it is. So, U.S. intel officials just admitted U.S. bombed Syria with no proof of Syrian attack. Of course, I don't recall there being sarin involved in this latest one. I didn't hear anyone say sarin. Maybe I missed that report, but why would he bomb them with anything? Why would they use any kind of chemical weapons when they were winning? They didn't need to. Video shows cops kill unarmed man for complying with order to get hands out of pocket. So now in America, not only do you get killed for being on your hands or being on your knees with your hands up, for being unarmed, for being black, for being white, for having a mohawk, for having a bowl cut. You get killed for doing what the cop tells you to do. Isn't that just fucking great? What kind of recourse do you have even when you follow the directions of the law enforcement apparatus? You get killed anyway. I see only one. Damn, what the fuck? There, more like it. I see only one. So, let's get into the main shit here. Syrian conflict is a distraction from a secret war, originally published by Brandon Smith on altmarket.com. Back in 2010, Brandon published an article titled, "Will Globalists Trigger Yet Another World War?" It's taken a long fucking time for him to do that, isn't it? Under the pen name Gordillo Bruno, describing what I felt would be the most effective triggers for a new global conflict. In that article, I pointed to Syria as the primary powder keg, followed in a close second by Iran and Yemen. Well, we're forgetting about the Ukraine. There's a lot going on in the Ukraine that we're not being told, or that's not being covered by any media here. in the United States. A lot. And I think that maybe our eyes are supposed to be on Syria and nothing will come out of it. At least nothing new. And the real operations, meanwhile, are going on in the Ukraine. Could be wrong, but it's funny how very little that place is mentioned when it is under globalist occupation too, but to a much further, they're further along in their collapse than we are. So, he says that it was written well before the Syrian civil war was engineered by the establishment interest. He talked about potential false flags that would be used as a rationale by the United States or Israel to invade the region, thereby giving Russia and China reason to retaliate. He reiterated his concerns in an article titled Syrian-Iran Dominoes Lead to World War, right after the Syrian Civil War began to gain momentum. And remember, I'm not going to show the video clip because other people have, in recent days have showed it at nauseum. But there is a video clip of General Clark talking all about how they need to take down these countries. They didn't do it in 5 years. They were not successful in their timeline. But nonetheless, I think that it's probably still their goal to overthrow the Assad regime because there's no Rothschild central bank there, because there's no American-owned or ally-owned pipeline there. So, and look, there's shitloads of minerals over there. There's ancient tablets and that kind of thing over there in Syria. There's lots of reasons for our country to invade Syria. None of them are good reasons, but there's lots of them. And we have not changed our general outlook on what's going on in Syria right now. It's escalated since and continues to do so. There's been no hard evidence produced by Western intelligence agencies to support the claim that Assad used chemical weapons against his own people. None. Therefore, there is no basis for the latest missile attacks on the regime. And this was attempted under the Obama regime or administration to draw the U.S. people into open war in Syria, and it failed. Now the chemical weapon card is being played again, this time with a so-called conservative president. The establishment must be hoping that Republicans will find excitement in becoming the war party so long after the Bush years. And of course, he talks about what exactly it does Assad have to gain by initiating a chemical attack against the innocent civilians there in Syria. He has nothing to gain by it. I mean, he was looking at having the United States pull out, giggity, and Russia both. And how convenient that days before this was supposed to happen, there was a chemical, or there's accusations of a chemical attack. There's not even any proof that any attack whatsoever, chlorine or otherwise, even happened. The last time a chemical false flag was attempted, what exactly does Assad have to gain by initiating a chemical attack against innocent civilians when he has the tactical momentum and upper hand in the civil war? The answer is nothing. The only people that have anything to gain by asserting such an attack, either real or fabricated, are people seeking to create chaos for their own benefit. Each Trump-involved theater, from the trade tariff to integral war tensions, international war tensions, has become progressively more dramatic, and I believe this is meant to hide the effects of the Federal Reserve's balance sheet cuts and interest rate hikes. The real and secret war being waged is not against Syria or Syria's allies, but against the American people and our economic stability. I warned that central banks were preparing to enter into an accelerating process to deflate the massive market bubbles they created to prop up our financial system over the past several years. That process is indeed continuing, and each successive rate hike and balance sheet cut will act in a cumulative fashion, meaning central bankers are treating the global economy like an oversized Jenga tower, pulling blocks here and there until the system topples completely from a lack of stability. The latest event in Syria is another grand illusion designed to provide cover for the banking cabal as they pull the plug on financial support or financial life support. It also is timed rather conveniently for the Fed's next policy meeting on May 1 and 2. The meeting is likely to include yet another interest rate hike as well as a large reduction in the balance sheet, resulting in another sizable plunge in stocks. All negative moves in our manipulated markets will now be blamed on the Trump administration activities, as well as blamed on trade retaliation by Eastern nations. And then this one goes right into it. It's kind of a complimentary it's complementary to that article, because it talks about how we're well, you'll see. If you had to ask me what the next several years are going to possibly look like, I would simply offer the following quote, and this is often misattributed to Lenin: there are decades where nothing happens, and there are weeks where decades happen. And Who did I say this was by? Oh yeah, Mike Krager of the Liberty Blitzkrieg blog. There will be many such weeks from now until 2025, with the end result an emergence of a multipolar world that will permanently unseat the unipolar U.S. imperial paradigm. Since World War II, the U.S. has successfully sustained a position of global dominance unlike any other or unlike anything the world's ever seen. Virtually each and every corner of the planet has been subject to inescapable and overwhelming American influence, both culturally and economically. This root of this power didn't just emerge from GDP strength and the USD, but from Hollywood, popular music, and TV shows. The impact of the U.S. empire on the planet over the past 70 years has been extraordinary, but like all things, it too shall pass. I believe this end will be realized by around 2025. When I say this sort of stuff, people think I'm calling for the end of the world. I suppose that's what it may feel like to many, because a paradigm change of this magnitude will indeed have monumental global implications. Yeah, your way of life is going to, your quality of life, your way of life, it's going. And if you don't believe me, just look back to, 1950s forward, and you can see the slow rot of this zombie body. Yet the world will go on. It'll just be a different place. That said, Americans not see this as an apocalyptic thing. It's not healthy or sustainable for one nation to dominate the planet in such a manner. Many of us like to think that a benevolent global empire led by a philosopher king is just fine. But the problem is that, this is utter fantasy. What happens in real life, to quote Lord Action, is that power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. I hate that saying. But it's true. This is precisely what's happened in the United States. We've been looted and pillaged with in recent decades, while an unaccountable class of people I refer to as top-tier predators operate at will with total impunity. The man on the streets thrown in jail for the smallest offense, while financiers who destroyed the global economy with fraud retire comfortably to their mansions. The U.S. empire no longer benefits the average American, but instead systematically funnels all of the spoils to a smaller and smaller segment of the population. Most of the world already sees it, and the average U.S. citizen is starting to see it as well. This is not good for the establishment. This is also why the U.S. status quo constantly lies to the public with its nonsense narrative that U.S. military action overseas is based on humanitarian concerns and a desire to spread democracy. Nothing could be further from the truth. In fact, all significant U.S. military action overseas is driven by money and power. Humanitarian concerns play no role whatsoever. Zero. None. Nada. Caitlin Johnstone recently summarized what's going on with geopolitics perfectly with the following paragraph. You know, every time I see the name Caitlin, I think of that faggot Caitlyn Jenner. This comes from Caitlin Johnstone. Not Caitlyn, I have a dick, Jenner. The mass media narrative factory tries to make it about chemical weapons, about election meddling, about poisoning ex-spies, about humanitarian issues, but it has only ever been about expanding the power and influence of the oligarchs who and allied intelligence defense agencies which run the Western Empire. All the hostilities that we are seeing are nothing other than an extremely powerful conglomeration of forces poking and prodding non-compliant governments to coerce them into compliance before global power restructures itself into a multipolar world. And I think it's rather interesting this author picks the year 2025 as that deadline. Remember, Deagle.com, a CIA-connected entity, forecasts a 85% drop in population in the United States by 2025. So, the biggest problem for the U.S. establishment right now is people are no longer buying the narrative. They certainly aren't buying it overseas, and even here in America, U.S. citizens are finally starting to see the humanitarian bombings for the shams they are. It'd be one thing if your average American was benefiting from U.S. empire, but they aren't. Rather, the spoils are going to a smaller handful of people from the top-tier predator class. While life for tens of millions is characterized by a disintegrating infrastructure, a completely broken healthcare system, continued unaccountable Wall Street looting, a dissemination of civil liberties, and an overall precarious economic existence that seems modeled off of the Hunger Games. Yeah, I mean, the economic situation continues to get worse for everyone in this country except for the richest people. I mean, like I said yesterday, we're seeing one store close down after another here where I live. Whole strip malls empty. If you go back to 1995 or the 90s at all, these strip malls were filled and booming with business. Now they are being emptied out. So the only people who don't see how dysfunctional the U.S. empire is are the people running it. Now, I disagree with that. There are a lot of people who are still blind to all of it, all the way down to what happens stateside here. I mean, again, our police have killed 450 times the people in 3 years than 30 years of mass shootings. I call that a serious problem. The U.S. establishment, which consists of a diverse assortment of elites from Wall Street, American intelligence agencies, mass media, Congress, the Federal Reserve, the military-industrial complex, and so on, disagree on many things, but one thing they agree on completely is the U.S. empire, that it should not only be preserved, but expanded. The major problem for them is that this isn't 1995 anymore. They just haven't got the memo yet. The U.S. establishment is either too busy making boatloads of money or playing keyboard warrior with other people's lives to acknowledge what's happening both here and abroad. A disconnected, greedy, and unaccountable elite class filled with hubris and an unsatiable hunger for power is a core ingredient in any imperial collapse, and this exists in America in droves at the moment. A reckoning is coming. So, and it's collapsing as they explained it here because of actions taken across the planet. These actions are unsustainable, and they're going to cause life for us to, or quality of life for us to continue to diminish rapidly. I mean, in my own personal life, I've seen this happening. Our quality of life rapidly going away. I mean, a year ago, I couldn't afford to see a doctor for pneumonia or whatever. Right now, I can't. And it's continually gotten worse over the last 2 years. At least for me. I don't know about you guys, but definitely it has gotten worse over the last 2 years. So something's got to give, and I think it's not going to be for the good. It's going to be for the bad, and lots of people, as I explained in many videos before this one, lots of people are going to be suffering. A wave of suffering unlike anything we've ever seen is going to come across our country in particular, and I think that lots of people are going to end up suffering horrible, long, drawn-out deaths. That's what I think. I think we probably already are suffering these deaths. I mean, after all, Fukushima is spewing shitloads of radiation into the ocean. So, and will be forever. And forever, like Prince says, said, is a mighty long time. Anyway, thought I'd share these with you. Hope everyone has a good day. Kill the state before the state kills you.